Hello BookTube, this is Weekly Reads, and it's been a Weekly Reads that has tried as much as it could to be last week's Weekly Reads. So this week I started with a work of literary fiction, The Five Wounds by Kirstin Valdez Quade. This is a story of a 33-year-old, unemployed, lazy, deadbeat, parasitic young man named Amadio, who for some reason, I have no idea why, he is allowed to join an Hermandad Penitente society in his small New Mexican town. Not only has he been allowed to join, he's also going to be the Jesus for this year's, or when the story takes place, that year's Passion Week reenactment of the crucifixion. While contrary to what seems to be Amadio's typical character, he is completely focused on being Jesus, although not for the right reasons. And his dedication is challenged when his 8 months pregnant 15-year-old daughter Angel comes to live with him after having a fight with her mother. Amadio doesn't want to deal with the situation, and his mother, Yolanda, who typically takes care of the situation, is off on vacation, and she's incommunicado. She's not answering her texts or her cell phone calls. So the two kind of settle into a fraught routine that kind of progresses enough from there. I did bail on this, frustratingly so. While I think the writing is really good, I couldn't connect to Amadio or Angel. Certainly, Amadio is a rather loathsome man. And it's quite the trial reading his chapters. Angel isn't as bad. Although there's something about her chapters that bugs me. And I don't quite know what it is. I don't know if she's a freer range child than perhaps maybe a more contemporary setting would allow, or it could be, I'm thinking that could be it, but there's something about her chapters, about her relationship with the adults in her life that it just doesn't quite sit well with me, and I don't know. I mean, like a lot of my bails, this one, I want to come back to this eventually. Not entirely sure when, but I will be coming back to this. So we will see what to make of it on a bail redemption. And now that I'm looking at the back of it, I'm like, where is the Book People tag? Because normally, when I buy a book from Book People, they have a little sticker at the back. Anyway. Anyway, now, after I bailed on The Five Wounds, I did dive into the new Spanish Table by Anya von Bremzen, a Spanish cookbook that I kind of wanted to read, and then it basically cured me of wanting to collect any more cookbooks. Although there are quite a few dishes I would like to try from that cookbook, but I might report back later on that. So anyway, so that was my Saturday reading. On Sunday, I started, I'll be right back because I read this like last week. So, this is not the book I read on Sunday. I'll be right back. The book I read on Sunday was South to Freedom's neighbor, Strongmen, Benito Mussolini, or Mussolini to the Present by Ruth Ben-Ghiat. This is a look at various authoritarian dictators through the 20th and into the 21st century, starting with Benito Mussolini and going on with Hitler, Francisco Franco, Mobutu Sese Seko, Muammar Gaddafi, Idi Amin, Augusto Pinochet, Viktor Orban, Recep Tayyip Erdogan, Vladimir Putin, Silvio Berlusconi, and of course, I think it's, Narendra Modi, I think it's Rodrigo Duterte, Jair Bolsonaro, and of course Donald Trump. So the book is divided into 3 parts. The first part is composed of 3 chapters that looks at how these various authoritarians come to power. Starting with the first chapter deals with the fascists, Mussolini and Hitler, and Franco to an extent, although Franco is sort of a bridge between the fascists, which he was, and the coup authoritarians, like the authoritarians who gained power through military coups, which, again, Francisco Franco did. The second chapter looks at those authoritarians who came to power through coups, Mobutu Sese Seko, mainly Muammar Gaddafi and Augusto Pinochet. And then the third chapter looks at how the elected authoritarians came to power, Silvio Berlusconi, Vladimir Putin, and Donald Trump. The book focuses on this batch, Mussolini, Hitler, Gaddafi, Pinochet, Berlusconi, Putin, and Trump. So the third, and with the other dictators or authoritarians sort of appearing here and there. I mean, they appear, but they're not really all that focused on, and sometimes they'll be missing for a chapter or 2. So the second part deals with how these authoritarians stay in power through like ideology, propaganda, images of masculinity or virility in the book, corruption, violence, and then the final part looks at how these authoritarians fall, or at least those who have fallen, and through resistance as well as pretty much the end of their regimes. And in parts 2 and 3, the book kind of goes through each of the focus on dictators or authoritarians, because some of them dictator, anyway. It's basically each chapter looks at all of them rather than each one getting a chapter. So I really enjoyed this book, although it was and is very brutal, disheartening reading. Reading how these people came to power is quite rough. And of course it also highlights how evil and how evil authoritarianism is, and how evil these authoritarian leaders are, but also how bad an authoritarian government is. I mean, they are just bad leaders. and their governments are just bad and sadistic and toxic, and it's so yeah. My one critique, I think, is that some of the authoritarians, I don't think, really get as much attention as they could. Like Orban, Bolsonaro, Duterte, really don't have much presence. They're mentioned here and there. And I think Trump gets a little too much, although since this is for the American book market, I mean, he would get probably more than his fair share of attention. So, anyway, but this was really good, and I read this all on Sunday. It was that good. So on Monday, I didn't really read anything. Me and my mom went to my brother's house to watch The Four Children of the Apocalypse, while my brother and sister-in-law went to a doctor's appointment to get an ultrasound taken. In a few months, the Four Children of the Apocalypse will become 5, and I will have to come up with a new collective name for them. Not entirely sure what that will be yet, but so we were over at my brother's for almost for about 4 hours. It's about 4 hours. And it wiped both of us out. Probably, I mean, in my case, it was I had way too much soda. Normally, I've cut my soda consumption down to 1 can of soda a night. Although I will drink one if I run out of water, which I probably do need to buy one of those big thermoses that Steve Donahue has from Amazon. So I had so I took a soda over there, and then they bought a supper, or fast food, which had a big, probably 2 or 3 cans worth of Dr. Pepper in that. And I've been kind of feeling the effects of that for most of this week, I think, or overeating the chicken. But anyway, so that was my Monday reading, or lack thereof. So on Tuesday and Wednesday, I read Owl by Desmond Morris. This is one of the reaction animal books featuring the owl. I liked it, but I didn't love it as much as I love the other books in the series. And I think in part it's because Morris treats the biology of the owl as an afterthought. It's only really looked at the last 30 pages, and he doesn't really give much in the way of the history of the study of the owl scientifically, of the evolution of the owl, of how ornithologists know what they know about owls. Very much owl is more or less literary criticism. Most of this book is devoted to the owl in mythology, in folklore, in literature, in popular culture, to a lesser extent, and in art. And some of the takes, I think, particularly with mythology and folklore, feel a bit dated. Now, yes, one of the major aspects of these books is the author's defense of the animal under discussion when those animals are maligned. But in defending the owl, I think Morris engages in some rather dated literary criticism. So that kind of bugged me. But for the most part, I've quite enjoyed Owl. So on Thursday, I read Tankobon of manga that I picked up this past month, and that was Noragami Stray God Volume 1 by Adachitoka. This is the story of a god a homeless god who wishes to build himself a shrine and to rise in the Japanese pantheon. To do this, he leaves his phone number across Tokyo that only people in desperate need of his aid can see. So they call him, and he helps them for a 5 yen donation, which has a religious significance in Japan. The first chapter deals with a young girl named Mitsumi, or she's really a high school student, called Mitsumi, who is being bullied by her classmates. And this bullying attracts a kind of a monstrous ghost-like entity that Yato, the god, kind of defeats, and then he also further aids Mitsumi in her problems, which his solution kind of drives his assistant away. And so the second chapter and the third chapter in this volume, the series is a monthly, I think, introduces the female deuteragonist, the kind of like the female main character, who through an accident kind of becomes a partial ghost, and yet her and Yato try to help each other with their respective problems. Yato needs a new assistant so he can create a sort of a magical weapon, and she kind of needs to figure out how to be a partial ghost. And then the third chapter sort of wraps that up. I really enjoyed this. It was a blast to read. The artwork is amazing. I love the sense of characters that are appearing, like the characters, the sort of the art again, the action is just, it is, I really enjoyed it, and I'm quite looking forward to reading more of Noragami Stray God, which I have to get more volumes of. Now, I guess I can go ahead and put Noragami up here. Which, yeah, reminds me that my manga collection has just about exceeded where I have it. So I'm going to have to start clearing out books from my brother's bookcase. Although I do have the third shelves empty, because my brother's bookcase has 3 long shelves and 2 shorter shelves. So I could probably, next month as I get more manga in, which I will likely do, I can kind of start on that and then start kind of clearing off books from the rest of it. But anyway, that's in the future. So today I started my poetry project. So April is National Poetry Month, and to celebrate National Poetry Month, I decided to read poetry the first week of April. So from today to April 8th, next Friday, I will be reading all poetry. So today I read 3 volumes of poetry. Bridled by Amy Meng, which I hauled yesterday. I picked this up from Majors and Quinn as part of my that order. I also read Prospects by Judith, which is also another LSU collection, and one I picked up from Majors and Quinn. And I also read First Nights by Niall Campbell. This is part of the Princeton series of contemporary poetry, and I picked this up through PUP's 75% off sale. Since this is part of my poetry reading project, I'll be talking about these books next Friday when I kind of do that video. So pretty much next weekly reads will be focused primarily or nearly exclusively on poetry. And then, of course, what I'll be reading the following reading week. So what I have on tap for this weekend is I will be reading or rereading Omeros by Derek Walcott. This is his great modern epic of that basically draws on the work of Homer and transports it to his Caribbean home of, I think it's St. Lucia. I read this 15 years or so ago, and I remember really enjoying it, and I'm looking forward to rereading it after so long. And then on Sunday, I will be rereading A Little More Rich Sun on the Human by Gillian Conoley. This is her newest selected poetry collection that's rather strangely organized. And I'll talk a bit more about that next week. But I read it last year and liked it, but I want to have another go at it. And then next week I will be reading, or over the work week, part of my weekly reads, I will be working on the other books I hold, other slim volumes of poetry I hold in March. Mostly from Pup, but also there's one, the third from Majors and Quinn, which is from the University of Chicago. So I will be reading The Two Yvonnes by Jessica Greenbaum, One Summer Evening at the Falls by Peter Campion, Radioactive Starlings by Myron Hardy, Syllabus of Errors by Troy Jolomar, Glossary of Chickens by Gary J. Whitehead, The Ruined Elegance by Fiona Sze-Lorrain, Scaffolding by Elena Rivera, Stet by Dora Malech, and Before Our Eyes by Eleanor Wilner. So that's my plan. If I manage to finish all of these up before next Friday, I will select some more poetry that I've collected. And if it takes me a little bit more time, then I will extend into next weekend and then add some more poetry to fill that off. In which case I will talk about that poetry, that following weekly reads, and then whatever else I read during the work week. So that's what I've been reading. I would have actually done this video earlier, so I would have to, I'm doing this video today, like earlier than I normally do, so I can, do Bridled and Prospects and First Night next week. But during the period in which I would normally be filming my videos, me and my mom were watching 2 of the 4 Children of the Apocalypse, Famine and War, while Pestilence and Death went with their parents to pick up a recliner for war. Anyway, but they were a delight. So anyway, that's all I've got for this week. Next week, I'm hoping to have an original tag video up on Monday. I have 100 random questions that I'm going to be breaking up into 4 parts. Although I do want to kind of have another look at those 100 questions, because some of them have been preempted by more recent tags. So I'm going to change up some of those questions, maybe retool some others so they can be as good as they can be. Then on Tuesday, I'm going to try to do at least maybe 2 tags, because I think there are 2 tags from this week that I've missed that I want to do. And of course, whatever tags come up on Monday and Tuesday for next week. And then Wednesday, I don't know. I guess I could do more tags or something. And then Thursday, not sure. And then, of course, Friday will be weekly reads. So anyway, BookTube, until next week, thank you. Have a great evening and weekend. And until I see you again, stay safe.